Hi, we are the Times Magazine team, and we're going to talk about an article called 22 Killed in Somalia, Suicide Bombings. UN hit. Suicide bombers struck a UN compound, the Ethiopian's consulate, and 3 other targets in northern Somalia Wednesday, killing at least 22 people in attacks that coincided with international talks in neighboring Kenya about Somalia political crisis. Wednesday, October 29, 2008. Suicide bombers exploded in the territory of Somalia and the Republic of Somaliland. There was one explosion in Somaliland, at the palace of the regional president. Other 2 exploded simultaneously in 2 different intelligence facilities in the territory of Puntland. This was in the morning. All the attacks were in the morning, in fact. No one claimed responsibility, but it is thought that Islamic rebels are behind this. Somaliland President's secretary died in the blast at the presidential palace, but the president was not hurt. The 2 suicide bombers and a security officer died in the attacks in Puntland, and 5 security officers were wounded. That's a total of 22 people. Somaliland has long sought international recognition as being its own nation, separate from Somalia. The region is a hotbed of abductions and piracy.
The UN compound in Somaliland was hit by a suicide bomb core. The number of casualties is still unknown. Somalia has been bearing with a lot of conflict. They live without a functioning government since 1991. The current government was formed in 2004 with the help of the UN, but has failed to protect citizens from violence or the country's poverty. Many international leaders gathered together to discuss this country's crisis. The meeting ended the Monday, 3rd of November, in the afternoon, with all the participants releasing a statement lamenting the lack of unity and unhelpful competition among the leadership in Somalia and calling for a new cabinet to be formed within 15 days.
Well, I think this is very bad because the people of Somalia have not had a government since 1991. I really can't imagine not having a government in 17 years. No one to take care of its people, no one
Yep.
to feed them. And what do you think about it?
I think that this issue has caused a lot of, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, because if you remember from past videos, we have the pirates. They're from Somalia, so they're doing this hijack of ships to get something to eat, to have money, because there's nothing to do there. It's complete. They're poor. So we'll just wait and see
How this unfolds.
with the cabinet, with the new cabinet.
Yes, I think
We just have to wait.
that's
Okay.
very, very, very true. ¿Algo así? ¿Algo así?
Sí.
Sí.
This is what we found about the Middle East news. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice on Thursday all but conceded that an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal by a year-end deadline is no longer possible. But she also said upon arriving here that it is important to maintain momentum and support for the negotiations so that new governments in both Israel and the United States have a firm foundation to continue to the talks next year. En route to the Middle East for her 8th trip to Israel and the Palestinian territories since the parties set the deadline for researching an agreement at last November's summit at Annapolis, Rice said political uncertainty is Israel is the main complication to the goal. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is being forced from the office by a corruption scandal, and the country is set to hold new elections in February. Rice noted that the situation is a constraint on the ability of any government to conclude a deal. I've learned never to predict in this business, she said. It is our expectation that the Annapolis process has laid groundwork which should make possible the establishment of a Palestinian state when the political circumstances permit. Rice added, I think that whatever happens by the end of the year, you've got a firm foundation for quickly moving this forward to conclusion.
Although Rice refused to absolutely rule out the chance of the agreement by year end, her remarks reflect the first time that Bush administration official has publicly not held uphold that the deadline could be met. Israel and Palestine officials have long said they believe the year-end deadline is unrealistic. We will see where they are at the end of the year, said Rice. Bombing the world. No, What's this song? Although Rice refused to absolutely rule out the chance of the agreement by year end, her remarks reflect the first time that Bush administration officer has publicly not held up hope that the deadline could be met. Israel and Palestinian officials have long said they believe the year-end deadline is unrealistic. We will see where they are at the end of the year, said Rice, vowing to work on this with the parties until the day that we leave. She will also visit Egypt and Jordan to shore up Arab support for the talks. At some point, therefore, Obama moves into the White House on January 12th. Reid said that she would like to see the sides memorize the process that they have made, but not stretch to conclude the partial deal. Rice has been making the same twin changes to Israel and Palestine, more than 20 large trips to the region during her tenure as Secretary of the State. Israel should lose the grip on the West Bank, and the Palestinians should tighten their own militaries. The talks that began in Annapolis have produced a few tangible results that are expected to be placed on hold for at least several months during the U.S. transition from Bush to Obama. In addition, Israel will hold elections, and there are questions about the tenure of Palestinian president. Thank you.